Hello, this is my attempt at explaining module scripts as quickly as I can. So first of all, what are module scripts? They're just a script that has code just like any other script, except they return a value and they don't just run automatically. So what that means is, instead of just having like a script with code that just runs like, classic hello world or anything, you have a module script which has a value and it returns the value, okay? And essentially you can just return a value. It doesn't really matter how you do it. But for example, now we're just literally returning hello world. In this actual script, we're using a require function, which is just a built-in function of Roblox to get the value returned by a module script. So now we have that value, we can just assign it the variable, we can just use it directly, right? And now if we print it, we're gonna have the value of the module script. And there we go, there it is. Right, so why would you actually use module scripts? So it's all about maintainability of your code and just ease of use of your code base. Okay, so as your code base gets larger, more complicated, you want to have some kind of structure in it. So for example, module scripts allow you to like decouple code that's unrelated or like less related into like different module scripts, right? Because you can just use the require function on it anywhere, right? And it's gonna work. Right, so an example of this, to give an example, could be the math module that I made here. So this is just like a module script that I just made with some kind of arbitrary random math logic going on. But the point here is that it's all encapsulated, it's all abstracted away inside of this module, math module thing, and then I'm just returning the math module with this function that I have. And all of the logic, everything, the internal states, everything is just inside of the module itself. So anything outside, like this math module test right here, which is an actual script, it doesn't actually have to care about how the math module works, it just has to care about how to use it. So it just uses the functions on it and then it just works, right? It doesn't even have to care about anything, it doesn't have to have the code in it, right? It's just an interface, which is pretty neat. So let's run this code and see how it works, and it works. It just does random shit that I just made up in here. Alright, and another example could be the player module built into Roblox that you can see if you go into your player. For example, we have right here, we have like camera module, control module, all this kind of stuff. Also, if you know what object-oriented programming is, that is very often used with modules. So you kind of treat a module as a class, and that's done through like tables and meta tables and stuff, but I'm not going to get into all that in this video, but that's another reason to use module scripts, I guess. Right, lastly, some important things to know about module scripts is that they are not server or client specific, okay? You could even have a module script in replicated storage that you could use on the clients and the server, right? And of course you can just have like module scripts on the actual client, just used by the client, right? Another very important thing to know is that their code is actually only ran once. If you require it 1,000 times, then the first time it's gonna run the code, generate, do whatever it has to do to actually get your value thing. If you have like a lot of functions defined in your table, whatever it could be that you have in your module script, and then it's just gonna return it, right? But the subsequent 999 required calls are just gonna give you that same value, okay? You're not running the code again. That's a very important distinction, okay? And another very important thing that's maybe a little bit self-evident is that you can't have circular require chains, okay? So you can actually have modules that require each other and stuff like that, but you can't have like module A requiring module B requiring module C, and like module C is like requiring module A. That's gonna mess it up completely. And to combat this, there's something called module loaders, which is like a concept where you just load every module into like a database, right? And then you have some kind of initialize function in the modules. So no matter how the modules use each other's code or each other's values, it doesn't really matter because they're all like loaded into the same place, and then you can just like get them from there, right? So yeah, I guess that's pretty much all. I guess have fun with module scripts.